my top 5 most forgiving iron sets for under £100. This is not a forgiving iron, unlike the suggestions I'm going to show you through my top 5 video. But right from the start, we have to forget about brand and more about head type. The bigger the head, the more de-lofted, the lighter the shaft, the easier it is going to be for you to get that ball airborne. And when you start this game, that's exactly what we're after. And £100 budget isn't a lot of money, but hopefully throughout my list, you can see what I'm looking for, because there's going to be loads of iron sets out there currently in your golf bag that are great, do the job, suffice. The main reason I'm making this video is that we're not necessarily thinking about brand, we're not necessarily thinking about new, and definitely not thinking about recent technology. We're thinking about a set of irons that's going to serve the purpose whilst we learn and start to get better at this game. And at the end of this video, I'll tell you exactly when you know to upgrade from these irons or potentially revert back to them. Now, this is not an easy list to make when you're talking 5 to pitch and wedge, standard iron setup, £100 budget. That means less than £20 an iron. You're almost giving it away at that kind of value, but I've got some great choices. Number 1, I've tested these on the channel. Quite a lot of these irons I've also tested on the channel, which is great. Lynx, ultimately the Boom Boom iron set. Questionable name, outrageous value for money for what you're getting. And after testing them on the channel, they are worth every penny that you can get them for. All Lynx irons, I would say, are highly underrated when it comes to the second-hand value, and I'll show you some recently sold prices of these irons. But if you can get past the name, potentially the glaring red badge in the back of them, at address, in the hands, and ultimately graphite being a more expensive shaft option for you slower club head speed players, Lynx Boom Boom irons seem to tick all the boxes when it comes to getting a good value iron set with a nice forgiving cavity back on the end of them. Okay, moving on into an equally underrated brand. I've talked about this brand a lot on the channel, specifically their woods, but their irons definitely come into the top 5 list. You guys would probably kill me if I didn't mention this brand, especially in the UK, Benross. And I'm going to go with a HTX model, and there's tons of models, and again with this whole list you can see what I'm trying to decipher. You're seeing what I'm trying to look for in terms of different heads and irons and brands. And at £100 with a decent cavity back, decent grip and decent shaft, you can't really go wrong in terms of just learning the game and having that element of forgiveness. They are looking for a good looking iron, and it's going to give you that element of help that you might need when you start the game. Oh, wind's taking it. Good job I'm hitting these out the middle, otherwise I'll probably shatter my hands. Let's get a big name brand involved, and trust me, this is difficult. At £100 for an iron set, 5 to pitch and wedge, potentially 4 to pitch and wedge. And with the big name brands, when you go back this far, it's difficult because most sets are 3 to pitch and wedge, i.e. drives up the value. And I would say, do you really need 3 to pitch and wedge if you're looking for this forgiving iron set? Ping G5. Overall quality, sound great, feel great. If you can get a set with a decent set of grips, hopefully they haven't got the original still on them, otherwise they'll probably be torn to shreds. And the reason I'm putting these in the list is because easy to resell if you don't get on with them, or just like most cavity back irons, which is why I don't like the idea of beginners buying a brand new set of clubs, is that you potentially can outgrow them quite quickly, which we'll talk about at the end of this video. But these would be a great set. Put in the bag, get used to them, get the forgiveness, get the help in that launch, and when you come to get rid of them, unlike potentially the other two sets that I have in this option, they should and potentially will fly off the shelf. And that did break my hands. And speaking of forgiveness, this is the most forgiving iron set in my lineup, and there's no surprise because they're hybrids. And when I was doing my research, I was quite surprised at the price that this was going for on the second-hand market. Don't get me wrong, extremely cumbersome, extremely ugly, as you will. But for the element of forgiveness and launch, this is the important bit. The bigger the head, the further that center of gravity is at the back of the club, the more forgiveness. No control whatsoever, but this is for the player that wants to be able to hit it across the entire face and feel confident. Get something out of it, make sure the ball's going forward. And I feel like it's a necessity to include this iron in the list, as with all cavity back irons, all brands, all different years, all different models, let's be honest, they're all exactly the same year after year. Get up. So therefore, I felt it very much necessary to put these irons in the list, as blades are one end of the spectrum and these hybrid irons are very much at the other. And through the entire journey of your golfing career, you get to decide where your irons sit on that spectrum. Ultimate forgiveness, no control, tons of control, but if you don't hit out the middle, it's going nowhere. So when is it time to upgrade? And that could be put two different ways. Number one, you're a player that hits their 7-iron currently 170 yards and you're early on in your career. Potentially, and I'll give you a scenario, you're in the rough, it's downwind, you've got 170, 175 to the flag, you pull it slightly and the ball goes 200 yards out of bounds. That is a time when potentially muscle back, slimmer down version, more loft, iron head will come into play, and that's what everyone talks about when it comes to control. You're not looking for ultimate distance on the good one and bad ones, but a good average one on the miss hits as well. Alternatively, if you're getting slightly older in your career and you've been hitting it 145, 150 a good amount of time, but you're starting to see that decrease, don't be afraid to go and get a cheap set of cavity backs. Like I've just shown you in this video. Tech isn't going to be the answer. Don't get a brand new muscle back iron with a graphite shaft. Just get something a bit bigger, a bit more de-lofted, and see if that gives you the kind of gains that you're after. So we move on to my last and final pick, and I've actually got two different models for this brand. One I've always recommended, and the other's kind of new but harder to get hold of, but why does it look great for the price that you can get it for? Wilson Stuff D100, loads of choice, lots out there, good looking head. Don't get me wrong, this was in an era where Wilson Staff wasn't necessarily as desirable as it is now. Highly desirable back in the day, highly desirable, great looking iron heads nowadays. The D100 I felt sat in the middle, but this is where you get to take advantage. I've hit it, I've tried it, it looks like it should be part of your current modern day set, and as I'll show you with the prices on the second-hand market, there's good availability out there for you guys. Therefore, I feel comfortable and confident sharing it with you so that you can build a decent bag for not that much money. So then let's talk about the more rarer looking model, which I know all of you will be thinking, right, I'm going to go and find these now. And ultimately that will push the price up. But because there's no awareness, and I think they just look great. I've never hit them, but I've tried all the other C models in the past, and I'm sure they'll stand up to the measure of what they're trying to achieve. The CI11 irons. I'll show you some recently sold, and again, there's not much demand for them or much supply. But if you get a late night auction with these blacked out Wilson Staff irons, not many people are potentially looking for them. I can't see you going wrong investing £100 into this beautiful little set of irons, fill in that gap of your golf bag. Oh, nice little fin to finish off the video. That's one way to keep it under the wind. If you like this video and you like bargains, I found an outrageous deal at American Golf that shows you there's quite a lot of deals out there that are just hiding in plain sight. And this video shows you exactly what I found on that day.